YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. This is an important video that everybody out there should share and pay attention to in regards to Jeffrey Epstein. I've talked about Jeffrey Epstein and the client list and the things the government wants you to know about Jeffrey Epstein. They want you to think only of Jeffrey Epstein as some psychopathic pedophile who trafficked children all around the world with Hollywood celebrities, with politicians, and of course that there's a flight log that the government won't give to you. But what you don't hear anybody talk about is what Jeffrey Epstein was really doing, and how Jeffrey Epstein has a direct connection to AI, a direct connection to DARPA, a direct connection to Israeli Mossad, a direct connection to all of these big tech companies who consume and control our everyday lives. And just like Donald Trump, just like Bill Gates, just like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, there's one thing in common other than pedophilia and a love for young children that they all have. And it's an obsession with eugenics. Eugenics and transhumanism, which for people out there who don't understand what that means, it means selective breeding, creating a perfect human hybrid race that they can control. You may have seen articles out there about Jeffrey Epstein in the past, not related to pedophilia, but you won't hear the mainstream media ever talk about it. Jeffrey Epstein, who hoped to one day seed the human race with his own DNA. That is what all of these psychopaths all have in common. Control, obsession with eugenics, and of course, depopulation. Depopulation through vaccines, depopulations through the chemicals and the things they put in our food, and of course, making it almost impossible for the human race to repopulate, which of course is something that nobody mentions, how the common couple who's trying to have children can no longer have children because of the chemicals they put in our foods, because of the things they put in the vaccines, because of the things they spray on us from the sky. They do this deliberately so that the rest of the human race cannot breed, because they don't want us to breed. They want to breed, and they want to breed the perfect human race. And eugenics has transformed into transhumanism. But just play this clip about eugenics, a short clip for people out there who don't understand what it is, have an understanding of this is the mindset that all of these big tech billionaires have, that all of these politicians from these elite bloodlines have about eugenics and making sure the rest of the population is unable to breed.
They embraced a new pseudoscience born in Britain called eugenics, which falsely claimed, with no evidence, that everything from poverty to prostitution, disabilities to what they called feeble-mindedness, could be eliminated if the individuals they dismissed as socially defective could be stopped from reproducing.
I wish very much that the wrong people could be prevented entirely from breeding. And when the evil nature of these people is sufficiently flagrant, this should be done. Criminals should be sterilized, and feeble-minded persons forbidden to leave offspring behind them. Theodore Roosevelt.
The idea was that the bad people have to stop reproducing, and the good people need to reproduce more. Negative eugenics says sterilize the wrong people, snuff them out. And that's the eugenics that the Nazis would pick up on.
Colleges and universities taught eugenics. Medical societies confirmed it. Clergymen preached it. John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie funded it. And some of the most prominent people in America championed it. Margaret Sanger, Alexander Graham Bell, even Helen Keller.
It seems to me that the simplest, wisest thing to do would be to submit cases like that of the malformed idiot baby to a jury of expert physicians. If the evidence were presented openly and the decisions made public before the death of the child, there would be little danger of mistakes or abuses. We must decide between a fine humanity and a cowardly sentimentalism.
33 of the 48 states would eventually enact eugenics laws mandating the forced sterilization of wards of the state deemed physically or mentally unfit. People in prisons, hospitals, and asylums. More than 60,000 Americans would be sterilized without their consent before the last of these statutes was removed from the books in 2014.
And what's happened from there is eugenics has evolved into transhumanism and gene editing. Eugenics, again, was and always will be about selective breeding. But now with gene editing, companies like CRISPR, who are directly funded by people like Jeffrey Epstein, which nobody ever talks about, these companies are now enabling the elites to envision the world that they've always wanted, where they can manipulate the human genome. They want it so that reproduction will be governed strictly by data and superior genetics, and the value will be determined by usefulness to the system, to the herd. Epstein funded the EDGE Foundation, Harvard's program for evolutionary dynamics, and the Santa Fe Institute, all, of course, under the guise of science for the future. They use terms like science and philanthropy to hide what they're really doing. And they know the more they dumb down the human race, the more they'll be unable to understand what these true psychopaths really want and intend for the rest of us. The goal is not evolution. It's selection, controlled, monitored, algorithmically assigned, where man becomes part of a machine, where we become an automation. Epstein wasn't just a pedophile. Was he a pedophile? Very obviously he was. All of these guys are. But this is deeper. And if people understand the connection between these psychopaths, who are all pedophiles, and technology and artificial intelligence, it would make them push back and push away from what's coming in regards to transhumanism and brain-computer interfaces, which people like Elon Musk, who are involved and connected to Epstein, are all trying to push out. Bezos, Musk, Cook, Apple, all these massive tech corporations, OpenAI, Sam Altman, are all moving forward with these brain-computer interfaces. And it's about genome sequencing. So we've seen the things with firms like 23andMe, who have normalized DNA harvesting. I've warned people for years about this, not to fall victim to these ridiculous shows that they would put out, where they would put celebrities on TV talking about how they're related to so-and-so, and they're related to so-and-so. And now you can find out maybe you're related to a king or a queen, or maybe you're related to a celebrity. And people fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And what they were doing was DNA harvesting. This is biometric surveillance that they're building out. These data centers are filled with all of your data, and that includes your DNA and your biometric surveillance. That's the obsession that Epstein has. That's the obsession that Gates has, Bezos has. And every one of these people is a direct descendant or has a direct connection to Israeli Mossad and DARPA. And this is about more than sex trafficking. This is about occult scientific experimentation, genetic engineering, behavior modification, trauma-based conditioning. And the end result of all of this is transhumanism, the merger of AI and bioengineering and human, creating a new human race. So what they've done over the last couple of years is they've mentioned Jeffrey Epstein, and you would never have heard about Epstein unless they wanted you to hear about him. So the narrative that's out there about Epstein, they wanted you to hear, because he would have just been some guy who got killed that you never heard about. and you would have went about your life without ever knowing who Jeffrey Epstein was. They wanted you to know about Jeffrey Epstein, likely for his own ego, because I'm sure he's clearly alive somewhere watching all of this go down. But they wanted you to go in one direction instead of getting the whole picture about what this entire ring is about more than pedophilia. These people were breeding with children. The Zorro Ranch is what people never paid attention to. They always paid attention to that famous St. James Island where we saw that little obvious, room where people think that they just conducted rituals in that room that had windows in it as if there wasn't anything underground. But everything was going on really at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch. In this ranch, they found a genetics lab, a baby farm, a hospital underground, underneath this 33,000 square foot Zorro Ranch, which of course was deliberately 33,000 square feet because that's their occultic number, the number they're obsessed with. And you may have heard in the video clip that I played where they talked about how they wanted to make it so people were not able to breed other than the people that they hand selected. And of course, this has everything to do with vaccination, right? Eliminate the soul with medicine. This was a world prophesied by Rudolf Steiner. In the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine under the pretext of a healthy point of view. There will be a vaccine that will make the body immune so that the soul no longer thinks of the spirit. And how coincidental that all of this stuff happened with Jeffrey Epstein and his vanishing and his trial and his supposed murder or suicide in prison, all around the same time that the COVID vaccine was unleashed on the citizens of the world, because that was part of the experiment. That was part of this eugenics project and transhumanist project, where we know that man was then mixing with machine because we know of the nanotechnology that was inserted into those vaccines. But of course, they were silencing people at the time who were talking about that black goo, that graphene oxide, how people were connecting to Bluetooth and connecting to the Internet of Bodies. So when you look at Jeffrey Epstein and all you hear about is Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile, that's the only thing that anyone's ever going to mention when you bring his name up. But this was a man who spent all of his time and all of his money with an obsession, not just with children and trafficking, but his real great obsession was to develop a super race of humans using his DNA. Epstein had Frankenstein-like plan to analyze human DNA in the U.S. Virgin Islands. They report he pulled in $200 million. And look at all the guys who supposedly would show up and meet with him at these dinners. Bezos, Musk, you're talking about Sam Altman, Peter Thiel. Obviously, we know Donald Trump, and we know of Bill Gates. Do you think it's a coincidence that all of these people happen to be the big faces of big tech? That all these people are now the face of AI and this AI revolution and the technological advancement. These are the technocrats who are all front and center. They are all the people who were visiting with Jeffrey Epstein at the Zorro Ranch. And these were all the people who Jeffrey Epstein was helping fund their operations. And of course, funding corporations and companies like CRISPR, who are right now, as we speak, attempting to modify human beings' genetic codes, the one unique thing that God has given all of us. So while they claim that Jeffrey Epstein is dead, the idea of transhumanism and eugenics and the mixing of man and machine has never been more prevalent. It's never been more in our face. It's never been closer to becoming an actual reality. Elon Musk was at these galas with Jeffrey Epstein, with Maxwell as well. And that's where people need to start understanding some of these other things they hear about, because it goes in one ear, out the other. We all know that we've never been to the moon. We know the moon landing was faked. It's the fakest thing we've seen, other than, of course, the hook at Sandy or maybe the Trump assassination. But the moon landing is very evidently fake. And then we know that for a fact, not just because of the footage, because we've never been back. And they've never tried to go back. And they send these rockets up in the air and they want you to ooh and ah when Katy Perry and these Hollywood shill Satanists are flying up in the air and coming right back down because they can't get to the moon. So when you hear Elon Musk talking about Mars, it's important to understand what they're planning on Mars. And of course, Mars is not some place up in the sky that they actually expect to get to. They expect to dupe you into thinking that they're going to get to Mars by the year 2030 or the year 2031, right? Elon Musk accelerating Starship development to build the Martian technocracy. And that all has to do, again, with the Club of Rome's plan. U.S., Canada, Greenland becoming one of the kingdoms of the 10-kingdom plan. That's why Donald Trump has an obsession with acquiring Greenland and acquiring Canada as the 51st state. It's even written in technocracy. From as long as technocracy has been a blimp on the radar, there'd be no countries called Canada or the U.S. One giant continental landmass called the Technate, a techno-utopia run by engineers and other experts in the field. Devon Island, up there at the top of Greenland, is where they plan to run these Mars experiments, these eugenics transhumanist operations. And that's where they give you the fake footage of Mars. Devon Island, as close to Mars as you may get. That's where they give you stuff like this and tell you, look, we found this stuff on Mars. And we get photographs where you can see rodents. This is a rodent that they show you in a picture that they tell you on CNN. They tell you on NASA's website is a rock. There's actual rodents. And it's a rodent, also a native to Devon Island, okay? Project Mars, The Technical Tale by Dr. Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun, writing a fiction book, ladies and gentlemen, science fiction book, happens to be the creator of NASA who wrote this book. And what was the plot? The plot of the book was about a futuristic people who would colonize Mars and who would be led by someone called the Elon. Elon is a character. And they are getting support behind Elon Musk. He's the face of Doge. He's getting rid of government, corruption. He's getting people behind him. They've already convinced people who once said they would never get electric cars to ride around in these cool Tesla cars, right? These big Tesla wagon, futuristic, cars that they're now putting in all these movies and TV shows to make people want them. And again, the plot of Project Mars follows a fictional story where a global united Earth movement. Sound like a new world order? Elon Musk tweets out Mars will be called the new world, just as America was in past centuries. This is where they plan on beginning this transhumanism eugenics operation, where human beings will be mixed fully with machine. Elon Musk has talked about this with the Neuralink, which they're already rolling out and trying to convince people it's for the betterment of humanity by playing on your heartstrings and saying, look, these people were paralyzed. And now they're not, thanks to Elon Musk. He's curing the blind as well, false miracles. He wants to give people superpowers, right? Think about that. Superpowers. You've been conditioned with superpower propaganda and all these ridiculous, awful movies about superheroes and superhero powers, because that's how they plan to manipulate you and market you mixing yourself with machine and getting this technology inside of your body. You even have the alt-right media like Alex Jones talking about why Elon Musk's plan to colonize the moon and Mars is critical to the future of humanity's survival and consciousness, right? And of course, Elon Musk talks about the collective consciousness over and over and over again. And that's pretty much what Jeffrey Epstein and all of these psychopaths have been trying to build out and create from the beginning. And that's why these people are not public figures. They're the faces of these corporations, which are all umbrella companies under DARPA. The government wants this technology in you. They want to create a hybrid race of humans. This is eugenics on steroids, which is what transhumanism truly is. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein devoted his entire life to. It was about more than just what you hear. They want you to believe that this guy, all he was doing every single day, his obsession was just getting these kids and selling them to other people. They were breeding with these children. He had literally had a breeding ground underneath this Zorro ranch. He had lab rooms. What do you think the labs were there for? They were doing scientific transhumanist experiments while they were trying to breed and crossbreed with children. So yes, these people are pedophiles and they're monsters, but don't forget the aspect of technology and how it ties into their agenda. It won't get mentioned in the mainstream. They don't mention that. They just want you to think, yeah, Bill Gates is a pedophile. Well, of course, Bill Gates is a pedophile. Of course, all of them are. But the transhumanist aspect is just as important to note. Because if people fall asleep and only pay attention to the pedophile side of this, they won't understand how dangerous what's coming with technology really is. And that's why I believe This obviously has to do with the mark of the beast, because you will no longer be a creation of God once they initiate these experiments with human beings, which they've already done, crossbreeding with machine and man merging together. It's eugenics of the future, transhumanism. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein was funding. That's what his obsession was. And they don't want you to ever talk about that aspect of who he is and why he was always surrounded by all these big technocrats like Bezos and Musk and Altman and Gates. You name them, they're in big tech. They were around him and sniffing around the Zorro Ranch while everybody was paying attention to that St. James Island. I thank everybody again for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.